Alright, so I've beaten Final Fantasy X, I think more than any other Final Fantasy game. Um, but I've never really done it in any different way than I usually do. So this time I'm just gonna play it bad on purpose as a joke. Um, Basically, what I'm planning on doing is using the expert sphere grid, and then I'm going to uh, basically turn the characters into other characters. You can't get over my overlay? Good. I always aim to surpass previous overlays. So basically, I'm going to be swapping characters around. I'm going to be making Tidus into Yuna, Yuna into Tidus, Auron into Lulu, and vice versa. The one problem that I've come across is that it is slightly different, but you'll never know how exactly. So one problem I did come across is that Waka, in order to make him into Riku, I need a level 1 key sphere, because unlike everything else, Riku's path is slightly delayed because she's the last party member you get. And the first level 1 key sphere you get isn't until Mihen High Road, which isn't that late. It's pretty early on, but it might be a problem. And that's the thing. If this playthrough ends up just not working out, then I'm just going to stop. Like, if I reach a point where it's like, oh no, the character I'm using, because of this stupid path I chose, just dies in one hit in this mandatory fight, then that's just going to have to be how it goes. But yeah. I don't know. I think this will be interesting, because it's not just a pure swap. Uh, because this not just like characters have certain unique traits. They have their overdrives, and they have. This just sounds normal to you, yeah. So they have overdrives, but then also the weapons I'm going to be getting throughout the story are going to be built with the proper builds in mind. So it's going to be like strength for Tidus and not magic. But it also might lead to some weird stuff, because I'm thinking about how the mage characters usually get weapons that have like status ailments or something, like a poison thing or something like that. And that's to offset the fact that they don't do much damage. But if they're doing super high damage and they have this really good weapon, that might work out well. But who knows? This could be a disaster. What won't be a disaster is I'm playing the Xbox version, which means I don't have to use the rearranged soundtrack. People are a bit melodramatic about it. It's not all worse. A lot of the acoustic music is better in my opinion. Like Jack's theme is a lot better. But the more bombastic music definitely took a huge hit. Anyways, yeah, got a new emote, Hattock Rant. You can get it by subscribing, or you can redeem some shark tokens. And for now, you can get it for even less than what you normally would, because there's an option to redeem a random emote, and there's only one emote, so your chances are pretty high. Wow, thanks right off the bat, Moonwatcher. One Solaris Knight 7 now has access to this emote, so that's pretty special. But yeah, beyond the weirdness, Final Fantasy X is just a nice, comfy game to play. I was thinking about how there's a lot of Final Fantasy games I couldn't stream, I don't think. Like, I love Final Fantasy IX. I just beat it recently. I used... Oh, jeez. Jesus, chill cycle. But thanks. Everyone has the emotes now. When we raid someone, we're going to have to let them know. But yeah, I've just recently beat Final Fantasy IX. I used the built-in cheats from the modern day ports in order to beat it in like 10 hours because the game is insane, and there's a weapon you can get. One of the best weapons for a character you can only get by beating the game in less than 12 hours, which is insane. But I'd never done it, so I tried using cheats to do that. Well, yeah, cheats. There's no other way to put it. It boosts your damage to 9,999. But anyways, if I were to stream that game normally and like properly show off what I like about it, it would be a disaster because there would be an entire stream where I would just be stealing from a boss to try and get the gear they drop, because Final Fantasy IX, the main character is a thief, so they made it so that the stuff you can steal is really good. But the problem is that's poisonous if you want to like do a commentary or something, unless you can cut around it, I guess. Because yeah, it's just mashing the same button over and over again so you can get a new weapon or something. Yeah, oh yeah, by the way, hello Neem Cycle, Moonwatcher, Solaris Knight, and Florist Elise. I'm not sure I missed anyone else. And Marvin, of course. Oh yeah, also, I think the stream boss has been defeated a couple times, thanks to all of those subscriptions. Yeah, more or less everyone's here. All the usual suspects, but then again, I'm terrible with names and have a horrible memory in general, so I could be missing someone really important right now. Xemnas is the new stream boss, but I guess that's not going to last that much longer at this rate.
Can I have your autograph?
You are the stream boss, Marvin. The stream boss thing works by you do damage to the health bar by following, subscribing, and all that kind of stuff. There's different point values for all of them, and whoever deals the final blow becomes the new stream boss. Yeah, Neem Cycle gift subbed 3 different people. You have access to Hattok Rant, the new emote.
Good luck tonight.
Nothing to worry about.
Credit to @ZoroFab on Twitter for redoing my old image to make a new emote version of it.
It was for you, okay?
ZoroFab's a fantastic artist. He's great at making the most blessed of curses.
Got it.
It is, it is the person who did the Badass UK thing for Die, and probably many other things you've seen on the internet, because ZoroFab functions somewhat as either you could say a mercenary or maybe a weapon, some sort of nuke, who goes around and destroys whoever you are willing to pay for. Which is not unlike one of the summons you get in this game. Yeah, if you've got the money, ZoroFab will stab whoever you want.
Well, gotta go. Cheer for me.
2, 3. Teach us how to blitz.
Hey, I got a game to play.
Then teach us after.
Maybe tonight, well,
You can't tonight.
I mean tomorrow.
Promise?
Oh yeah, so something I was going to set up, but I just realized I totally forgot. I was going to have a prize you can redeem with some points, some actually shark tokens, so you can name the Aeons that you get throughout this game. Since this is the first voice-acted Final Fantasy game, you can, on the back of the box in the PlayStation 2 version, it says characters with voices. So as a result, you can only name Tidus here, and it becomes very awkward because no one can refer to him in any of the voice-acted cutscenes. But yeah, besides that, you can name all the summons that Yuna gets. So I thought it might be a fun little chat thing to do. You can spend your points to name the characters. Speaking of spending your points, you might have noticed that the cost of a Shadow the Hedgehog playthrough has increased. Not only that, anytime it gets redeemed from now on, the price will increase further. I'm thinking by 5%.
Heck, we all were that day.
I've also limited it to just... Wait, that guy's name is Zanar? And he's from Xanarkand?
We sat up
Just noticed that. I played this game how many times? I just noticed that.
My dad and I never
But yeah, I've
talked
also
so
limited
much.
it to
Whoa.
one Shadow the Hedgehog
Mean to
playthrough
reminisce,
per
folks.
stream.
Anyway, 10 years later, the Jack Memorial Cup tournament
You'll
is
get there, but
today.
what if you want to spend your points
The two
naming an
teams that
Aeon
have
to be
won through the
immortalized in
finals
this
are, of
game?
course, the Abes from A East and the Duggles from C South. I know
You're
there's a
scared you're gonna
lot
hit
of
it by
people out there
accident?
today to
Well,
see
there's
the
other stuff you
star
can
of the
redeem.
Abes. In just 1 year, he's become the team's
In fact, you know what? Let me
#1
just
player.
add the reward. I would have
He's
liked to have
Jack's
had the
blood
image
and
ready
a
for
new
it,
hope
but
of Blitzball.
let me
What
just
kind of
quickly
super play
go
will he show us today?
and add the
Will
thing
we see his
to
father's
let you
legendary
name
shot?
an Aeon.
I don't think I'm the only one excited here, folks.
All right, what did I miss? I'm not sure if you have to refresh, but now there should be an option to name an Aeon. I didn't realize it, but there's no actual way to limit it to one person being able to do it. Like, as in, I don't want one person being able to name every single one. So just a secret hidden rule is you can only redeem it once per person.
Make way, make way! Coming through, sorry.
Oh yeah, so I played through a bit of this just to get a feel for any issues that might come up. And one thing that did come up is that going backwards through the sphere grid to get to other paths is a bit of a problem early on because they're very barren, there's nothing there. So your stats really don't go up enough at the start, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of grinding. In fact, I might even do some off-screen grinding just to make sure this goes smoothly. Oh, name cycle. So, okay, you'll get to name the very first Aeon. What would you like to call it? Oh no, did you not plan for this? Yeah, well, I guess if I don't hear from anyone after they redeem this, I'll just use their username. Oh, did I set it to be once per stream? Shoot. Man, can you tell I'm not very used to Twitch? Yeah, this song, the song that blew my mind when I found out that it's actually an incredibly complicated MIDI file being played. Like, I can't handle this knowledge. The fact that this isn't a recording. This is like hundreds upon hundreds of small segments of a recording being played over top of each other to create the illusion of a recorded song. Yeah, no, this is a MIDI. I went through the files for the game's music one time, and I found this weird sounding song, and I applied the included sound font to it, and it became the song. It's insane. It's the darkest knowledge of this game. Oh yeah, the Black Mages cover is great. For those of you who don't know, the Black Mages are a Final Fantasy cover group made by famous Final Fantasy composer Nobuo Uematsu. Anyways, what I was gonna say is that as I was playing through this game for the sake of figuring things out for the stream, I was looking at how gorgeous the backgrounds are whenever it's not 3D. Like, a big thing for this game was it was the 3D Final Fantasy game. The previous 3 mainline Final Fantasies used 2D pre-rendered backgrounds with 3D models over top, so that they could put more of their resources into making the models look good. And the thing is that just coming off Final Fantasy, like here's one of the pre-rendered backgrounds, and it looks so good upscaled. And the thing is that Final Fantasy IX, which is just on my mind because I just finished it. It has backgrounds of this quality, but most of them seem to have been lost. So in the ports and stuff, it's super pixelated, and it's such a shame because the lossless versions that exist look just as good as this, and it holds up so well. But it just, most of them aren't around. It is the video game equivalent of matte paintings. It's a very apt comparison. So one other thing to keep in mind with this stream is that it's going to take a little while for the challenge aspect of it to actually come into effect. That's the word I'm going for. Because every character has starting stats biased towards their default path, and it's just kind of slow going leveling them up at first. So I'm not sure what the long-term effects of this is even going to be.
Don't cry.
So this wasn't my first Final Fantasy game, but it was up there. By the time I got into Final Fantasy, the next gen had come along. Like Final Fantasy 13 was on sale by the time I bought it, and Final Fantasy 13 was another game that I played early on. So like I did play this on the original PlayStation 2, but by the time I got to it, the actual discourse surrounding the game had passed. And because of that, I didn't find out until recently that there is a really common just casual racism thing going on where people will just save stuff about the FMVs, that's the CG cutscenes, because the characters in this version, like Square Enix games, usually they have fairly neutral looking faces. By that I mean they're very Western, I guess, but they look more distinctly Asian in this game specifically, and there is a lot of just casual racism that exists in old forums and stuff if you look up stuff about this game. So that's a thing. Final Fantasy X, speaking of old content though, is one of those games that has been ruined by, well, not YouTubers, it predates bad YouTuber times, but video content creators in general have very stupid takes about Final Fantasy X that persist to this day and influence it and its discourse in very unfortunate ways. Like, I feel like a lot of people, even if they don't know anything else about this game, they know about the laughing scene, and a lot of people just think it's unironically just some weird bad thing. Anyways, something I was thinking about when I was playing through this bit beforehand is this type of system really deserves another shot. Like, this game has so many cool cinematic battles they really wanted to push what they could do now that they had this new, more advanced hardware. So you have fights like this where you're running through a stage, but then you stop to do fights. And there's other stuff later on that I'll point out. But yeah, like with even fancier next-gen technology, they could do so much with this kind of a thing. Like I don't mind that Final Fantasy seems to be going in the direction of being an action game now. Like Final Fantasy 16 is the Devil May Cry director, not director, but the battle director or whatever involved. And Final Fantasy 15 is something, allegedly. Yeah, get hyped for the laughing scene meme cycle. It's fairly early on. It won't be in this stream for sure, but it's fairly early on.
Get out of my town!
Some can't wait to die.
Another thing this game does all the time is they have lots of incidental dialogue for different kinds of things. Like not only does it react to like how you play and stuff that you do, there's just lots of like boss specific quotes and stuff that's, I don't know, like it feels like they really peaked and then they just didn't bother to take it any further. Cause like this isn't the limit. Final Fantasy X is still kinda jank. So I'm doing the overdrives right now, and something I've been thinking about is that one aspect of this challenge run that's going to take effect is that most characters' overdrives are going to become worthless because they're all based around your default class. Like when I make Tidus into a white mage, his sword moves are not going to be doing much. So I'm not sure what impact that's going to have, but it might make things significantly harder because overdrives are big damage dealers. When you get to the scene where Waka listens to Ants and the Wise on Yensid's podcast, man, that sentence must sound like gibberish to most people. We'll get to Waka being racist sooner or later. Yeah, I did try to put some reasoning behind my class changes. So, like, that's why I made Waka and Riku switch places, for example. And then Tia's and Yuna switching places is just the obvious one. And then Lulu and Auron switching are kinda just the leftovers, but it still works because they're both failed Guardians. Spoilers. So there are probably going to be some solo fights at some point that are going to become a disaster. Because there are points where your party is fixed and it's not going to have the party composition the game is expecting.
What are you laughing
Is Kimahri going to get shelved? So
Auron,
I'm
let's get outta
probably
here.
going to build Kimahri more or less how I always do, which is I'm going to make him a thief because
Break,
there's a
man.
boss fight near the end of the game that he has to do where if you have steel you can get level 3 key spheres, which are very useful. Beyond that, I'm also going to probably try and make Kimahri a bit of a jack of all trades because I might need to fill in some gaps because of the problems this run is going to create. Oh, did I run past the save point? Whoops. So yeah, something this game tries to do is have these kind of like cinematic things, because you see that big obvious machine over there that's going to do something. It's just waiting for its moment. But the thing is that even within this game, this kind of stuff falls away really fast. Because like there's some other cinematic type fights, but it becomes a lot more standardized really fast. And like I feel like the bajillion dollars that goes into a Final Fantasy game nowadays could take this system and make something really, really cool. I considered just playing ahead up to the point where I can actually use the sphere grid, because this is basically just filler, but I figure I might as well do a complete playthrough. Because you can't even upgrade your character until you get to Riku, and you're not going to fight enough to actually have it matter either, so. Hey Des, how's it going? Zemnis VTuber for a second, yeah. That could be a thing. Hatsune Riku, famous pop star? Could be. They'd have to collab with Sega though. I think one of the reasons why Final Fantasy X is a good Final Fantasy for beginners, beyond it just being a very smooth experience that doesn't tax you too much like some of the other ones might. There's a lot of collateral damage meme cycle. The city is getting destroyed. That actually reminds me, I totally forgot to mention something I noticed when I was playing this. I've never noticed before anytime I played this game. Because now you see all this debris and stuff being sucked in and destroyed and stuff.
You are sure?
But when you first see Sin start to appear, it looks like debris at first, but actually the buildings are being warped and distorted and kind of getting sucked into it, which is really cool, minuscule foreshadowing to how the story goes. You can actually see the warping happening right now too. I also didn't call out the really cool part at the beginning where Auron like lifts up his jug of wine or whatever to like as like a tribute to Sin or something, and it like levitates out of it. It's a cool visual.
Hey. Hey.
But yeah, to this day, 10 is one of the most digestible Final Fantasy games.
Old man?
Like, I think the main three that you can point to, like the average person, one of them is going to probably work for you as a first Final Fantasy. It's either 10, 7, or 4 for different reasons.
I thought about a lot of things. Like where I was, what I got myself into. I started
Although,
to feel
if you want to get into the real stuff,
lightheaded.
10 too.
and then
There's a game,
sleepy.
great game made by the most unhinged
think
psychopaths
I had a
to
dream.
ever roam this
A
earth.
dream of being alone. I wanted someone, anyone.
So I complained
beside
about
me,
this on Twitter, but
so I didn't have to feel
Final
alone
Fantasy X
anymore.
2 is an evil game. It's kind of somewhat infamous for it being insanely hard to 100%. But I used a guide and I did it. The problem is, the HD version adds a new secondary mode where you can go around collecting all the monsters in the game, and they can fight alongside you. And they also have little storylines to go along with it. And if you get all of those, you get a little like joke ending to go along with it. The thing is, that joke ending will override the cutscene you get for 100% completion. So I can't get the reward for a 100% completion on my save file. I love that game, but it is, it's cruel. They hate you. They are upset that you are playing this video game. I can't think of any other game made with as much malicious intent. Alright, there's some odds and ends around here to collect. Like that thing over there. Since it's the Xbox version, I can't import my Albed primers, so whenever Albed are talking, it's going to be gibberish. You respect that school of game design? I do too, that's why I like the game so much. Nuts and bolts is pretty close? I wouldn't really know.
What do we have here? Nope. Can't read.
Needlessly cruel to Banjo fans? Yeah, I guess that's kind of the same vein as like DMC Devil May Cry. But Final Fantasy X-2, it will... Some purists don't like what it does to the story, but it's just cruel to the player, arbitrarily. It's a cool game, but it is malicious. Like, there's a cutscene you can find in Final Fantasy X-2 that is the only instance of a beloved character from this game appearing, like physically, and the only way to get it is to follow some steps to specifically fail a certain extensive series of quests in a very specific way, which is actually the correct response, but it doesn't get you an episode complete, which locks you out of the reward for completing all the main side missions properly. Like, there's so much you could say about 10-2 about its malicious, evil design. Oh yeah. All the ports of PlayStation games to Xbox get these new save menus that are way better instead of the default built-in PlayStation ones that are just blocks. Yeah, that is the thing. Like, that's basically all I know about Nuts and Bolts, is that it had a bunch of gags about how, oh, no one wants to play a normal Banjo-Kazooie game anymore. They want to play this weird racing thing instead. And like, I do hear that it's an okay game, but it's not something that, like, you know, you don't take a franchise and just turn it into something completely different. Like, the thing is that I like it when things like change around and stuff. I like new interpretations of things, but you don't like, I don't know, you don't maliciously change an IP into something else just like, I don't even know what the reason is. Like, you can say profit, but what's the point of banking on an IP and then not using it properly? You know, like, I don't know, like, it's hard for me to like thread the needle here, because if they announced the next Devil May, like if they said Devil May Cry 6 is going to be a turn-based RPG, I'd be all over that. But people would probably be pretty upset. And if they were like, oh, nobody likes playing action games anymore, that would be pretty annoying, I imagine. But the thing is, I think those things just have to coexist on some level. Like, you know, Paper Mario is one of the ones that's closest to me. How they just destroyed that franchise for no reason. Like they took out every core aspect of it besides the aesthetic. Something I like about Final Fantasy X's design. Oh. Hey, I know who that is. Hello, McBear. Ryan McBear, that is. So yeah, something I like about Final Fantasy X's enemy design is that a lot of it is basically just underwater, like deep sea life. Like, it's not really like full-on monster design. It's pretty. This is. Let's just say this is the truest to life Final Fantasy game. Posture check. Oh, for once I'm actually slouching. Thank you. How am I playing it wrong? I'm going to be taking different sphere grid paths for everyone. So I'm going to make Tidus into Yuna, Yuna into Tidus, Lulu into Auron, Auron into Lulu, and Riku and Waka will switch places. And then Kimahri, I'm just going to make a thief like usual. Hydrate? Will do. Tasty water. Again. Tasty water. Oh, I just noticed that the point redemptions don't actually show up in my chat on the screen. I guess I should be declaring it whenever someone actually redeems some points.
I had made it out of the frying pan and into the freezer.
Well, wasn't Nuts and Bolts originally a platformer and they've reworked it into a racing game? Or like it's not even really it is a racing game, right? But you also have like car exploration stuff. So I'm not sure if it's just that the PlayStation 4 version, oh, this is the Xbox version, but same difference. The next gen version of this port, I'm not sure if it's just because they have a higher resolution, but the game looks super crisp. Like I've been playing the PlayStation 3 version, mostly 10.2, but this looks like notably better. And I'm not sure if it's just a higher resolution or if they even like went beyond that and made the textures higher quality, because it looks super crisp. Oh yeah, I think I've seen that early trailer. Are you able to change your Twitch name? I have no idea. I am not that familiar with Twitch even now. I imagine you can. Oh, wait. So, this is jumping forward a tiny bit, but Final Fantasy X kind of has a very different, like, initial premise. Like, it's a fake out with, like, the premise of, like, time travel and there being all these ruins and the people, like, scavenging them and stuff, for it to then shift into well, calling it a more standard setting isn't very fair because 10 has probably the most distinct setting in a Final Fantasy game. But the hook they give you, like the original idea, is very different from where the story ends up going. And like, sometimes I think about if I would have liked if that part was played straight, and I'm really not sure. And I think I wouldn't. I think I like what we got, but it's interesting to think about how different the tone at the very start of this game is, with all these ruins and stuff. And yeah, no, I love the architecture too. Like the look of this world is so distinct. Like no other Final Fantasy. Well, okay, 13 might come close in terms of distinctness, but the thing is, I don't know. 13 has that sci-fi look down, but I don't think it really expresses its culture as well as 10 does.
I need food. What do you want?
It was a bad call. Your team lost because of you.
You came to say that?
It's been
Roman style? I don't know,
10
actually.
years.
I feel like it's not. I think it's more. I really don't want to say a name because I'm woefully uneducated on most parts of the world. But the colors and all the patterns and stuff remind me of something. I just can't quite put my finger on it. Granted, Roman architecture was colorful. It just became literally whitewashed because people just assumed that, I guess, paint didn't exist back then. I don't know.
Hey, wait! Don't go out on me! Nah, just hold on. I'll get more wood. Give me a break!
Honestly, I think they have too many of these tutorial battles too. Like, they're still teaching you stuff like an hour or two, maybe 3 from now. Because like there's, right now you have so few mechanics that it's all just these fights, and like the bosses they put you against, they specifically have a gravity effect, which means that they do 25% of your health as damage, which means they can't kill you, which is good for tutorial's sake, but it goes on really long. Which is weird because like Final Fantasy X isn't like, it's not the hardest Final Fantasy game, but it gets hard. Like the late game bosses are they get really rough. Yeah, the intro takes ages, exactly. That's a more succinct way of putting it. I guess something about this era, just like from 10 all the way up to 13, Square Enix just really felt they needed to explain their very basic mechanics in excruciating detail. Yeah, you can use items to do damage. You probably won't, but you can. Oops. Oh yeah, so actually, coming off of Final Fantasy IX, like I was just talking about the stealing and stuff in that game, I actually really like how stealing works in this game, which I don't think any other game has really copied, which is that the first time you steal, it is guaranteed to work. And then after that, it goes down to 50%, 25%, 12.5%, etc. And that's honestly real nice. Like, there's still rare steals and common steals, so it's not like it's still a random element to it, but still, it's nice to just like get stuff and not have to pray to RNG all the time. one thing I do remember from cringe old YouTubers that is definitely relevant is that this game has an immense amount of ass shots. Like, and not just women, like it's everyone.
Close.
It's just the place that the camera naturally gravitates towards.
Hey, let me go.
Oh yeah, have fun understanding next to none of this. Luckily, there is nothing worthwhile said by an Albed in their native language at any point in this entire game.
Ifun patin. Vapuneket verdrik.
Your stepbrother said that the yellow parts of Rico's outfit were bearskin. Honestly, a ton of characters' textures look like bearskin in this game because they use yellow so much. It feels racist? Good, because guess what? Racism is almost a theme of this game, but then it's not.
Kid, Daija.
Hey, that hurts.
Usujek, right?
It is the coward's approach. There is an actual genocide in this game that is just kind of brushed aside.
Canis.
But yeah, so Final Fantasy X-2 has tons and tons and tons of cruel design. But this game has cruel design too. Because there's a character who does not speak English who will initiate a long, long tutorial that you just went through if you reply to them.
Understand me?
And they actually fixed it in this version. There's a skip button, so if you do that again, you're not screwed like you were in the original version. I'm not sure if that's specifically the next-gen version of the port, because I don't remember it being in the PlayStation 3 version. But yeah, no, that's a really good fix. Although, I wish they'd bothered, like, it probably would have been a lot of work, but I wish they added a skip cutscene option. Because they did it for Kingdom Hearts. When they ported that, they added a skip button, and then they went further because in the PlayStation port, you couldn't skip the intro cutscene of Kingdom Hearts, and they fixed that in the Xbox version, and I guess the PC version now too. See, that's this tutorial. There's a little skip button in the corner now. It's basically just telling you how to level up. It's gonna so this is not only not the path I'm going to take. This isn't the sphere grid I'm using. They don't even bother to update the tutorial when you use the expert sphere grid, which, by the way, the expert sphere grid is actually just like objectively worse than the default one. It has fewer slots, so your max stats are lower. Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't patch the Kingdom Hearts ports. Well, they never patched the PlayStation 3 stuff, but at least the PS4 version. Because they patched the PS4 port of Final Fantasy 12 to add all the stuff they added later on. But honestly, speaking of ports, like, I'm surprised none of the Kingdom Hearts ports ever added the ability to switch to the classic music. Because it's nowhere near as bad of a situation as Final Fantasy X's remastered music can get, but it's not always an improvement. Some of the old music sounds better, and they still use the classic music in Melody and Memory, the rhythm game. So I don't know what their intent is. I don't know what rules are holding them back and all that. Yeah, melody and memory is great. I mean, I'm not a rhythm game expert, but I think it's the best rhythm game ever made. Like that sounds like hyperbole, but the maps are genuinely so like lovingly crafted. There's so many elements to it that are just there for style. Like it's not just look at these circles that are sliding towards the thing. When they flash, you press the button. It's like, here are some enemies that you have to hit, but it's not their time yet, so they're going to run away from you until the point in the the point in the song where it's time to hit them. And that's just such a cool extra level of detail, and that's such a like flex. That makes it really pushes above for me. I probably could have just skipped this. It's not saying anything important. Although that does remind me that I need to make sure to use the extract ability in order to extract ability spheres, because they're kind of rare at the start of the game. Man, it's probably going to take quite a few streams before this challenge run even like reaches the point where it has a notable impact on my characters. Alright, I can improve Tidus now. So, what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to work everyone towards the middle, and then once I get some of those spheres that let you place extra high-level stats, I'm going to put them in here so everyone can get them. Then I'm going to move out and start getting everyone abilities and stuff. Because there's a lot of empty space around here, so the characters just don't gain much doing this route. Because you're supposed to just follow the path. But the whole thing with the expert sphere grid is you can go wherever. It's easier to just choose a different path for whatever reason. And I've never done that, and I'm wondering how viable it is, so that's where this stream comes from. Oh yeah, so let's see. Yeah, so if you say yeah here, it starts the tutorial again. And you couldn't skip before.
We found some ancient ruins right beneath us. It's not active now, but there should still be some power left. We're gonna go down there and activate it. And then we should be able to salvage the big prize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get to work.
Roger.
Man, I've been doing cold showers lately since they're just apparently good for you. And I don't know, the concept of diving into seawater like this is insane to me. Divers are crazy. What is he, a B1 battle droid? No, he would have said it twice. Open water terrifies you? Yeah. Open water is just space but on Earth. And with pressure, like in space there's no monsters, but like water is terrifying. Like underwater has all the loneliness of space and all of the pressure of space. Well, no, but more or less functionally the same. But then also horrifying monsters, and it's just the worst of every possible type of human horror. I should play Subnautica? No. I should not play Subnautica. Even just watching a Let's Play of, what's that game? The horror game that's underwater. With all the robots and it's all about existentialism, and it's thematically identical to Kingdom Hearts. Soma, yeah. Oh, I watched a Let's Play of Soma, and even that gave me nightmares. I should be stealing to stock up on grenades. This is the one time in the game they're useful. Oh, aesthetically, water is beautiful. Like, just within Final Fantasy X here, there's tons of great uses of water. But being deep underwater is horrifying. It's like how pictures of space look gorgeous. Being in space is a nightmare. Stop turning me around. You sound like you have experience being in space. Well, I guess technically, like, through the power of imagination, I guess, because I can visualize the concept of not having friction, and that alone horrifies me. And then, like, the concept of, like, looking out your window and there not only being nothing there, but also death, that's terrifying. And, like, because, like, already on a basic level, the idea of there being trouble and not being able to do anything about it is scary. Like, you know, like, I feel like a lot of people have had the nightmare of, like, you're running away from something, but it's faster than you. Like, that's a basic type of horror where it's like, you can't do anything about this situation. And every problem in space has that extra problem tacked on of there is nothing to do and nowhere to go. Yeah, no, that is, water has that advantage. You can go in water without it becoming a nightmare. So even though the rate of stealing goes down, it's probably still more cost effective because Riku's damage is so low. Picture attack. The game's physics, that is to say the physics of Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, is not equipped to deal with cracked feet like you? Okay. I mean, honestly, most games' physics aren't equipped to deal with basic elements of gameplay. Like, to this day, whenever they try to use physics to simulate, like, rocks crumbling or something, they look like they're made out of styrofoam. Like, physics in games really struggle to simulate actual, like, weight. There's an absurdly powerful car that's nearly impossible to control. I know that feeling. Sometimes I'll be playing Yakuza, and I'll just put all the god tier parts onto my car and watch as it flies right off the track. So far, I haven't failed steel. Yeah, there we go. Must be down to like 12% by now. If you get lucky, you can get a rare steel from this, which is what I got when I played last time. And you get 3 grenades, which is pretty convenient. That does sound way too powerful, but it's cool that you can make a car like that within the game's options. Like, that's pretty neat. Oh yeah, so I was also looking at how the affinity system works in this game, and something I didn't know is there are 88 opportunities to increase your affinity with characters in this game. And a lot of them happen in like strange ways that you wouldn't really think would increase your affinity with someone. Like, I guess it makes sense, but if you eavesdrop on conversations, if your affinity with that character will go up. But there's some weirder stuff like you can gain affinity for Riku here by transitioning to the next area before she does, which is very strange. Yeah, the affinity system's nowhere near as in your face as Final Fantasy VII's was, but there's a couple different things they changed. The big one is, I guess the closest to an equivalent for a date scene is on Mount Gagazet. There's a bit where you ride on some, like, whatever they be called, like, I don't know, some sort of snow vehicle, and the person who rides with you is whoever you have the highest affinity with. So there's a different scene for each of those characters. There's also a small scene change at the very end of the game. When you go to the final dungeon, the first person to jump off into the final dungeon is whoever you have the highest affinity with. And then, of the 3 girls, Lulu, Yuna, and Riku, whoever has the highest affinity will be the one who throws the Blitzball to Tidus during his ultimate overdrive. So it's not much.
Hey!
And, like usual, it is very difficult to raise your affinity with the guys. Not only are there just not as many opportunities, but Auron and Kimari, as far as I can tell, only ever get +2 affinity, where everyone else gets +4. I was thinking about trying to get the scene with Kimari specifically because it's so, like, they're trying so hard for you to not get it. But yeah, speaking of trying hard or not trying hard, I wouldn't have seen this coming, but Lulu has drastically more opportunities to raise affinity than Yuna does. Lulu has a total of 220 points she can earn towards her affinity, and Yuna only has 150.
Hey!
Hello there. What is your name?
Riku?
Whoa! You really do understand. Woo-hoo-hoo!
There's a lot of weird line reads in this game. Going by what James Arnold Taylor has said about this, the direction was very
I
strange.
didn't get a chance to. Everyone thought we were a fiend.
Yeah, Lulu has the belt dress. Although, really, it should be Auron in this case, because that's who I'm building into my Black Mage. You have no idea what's going on?
Who are you
I mean,
guys
you're not
anyway?
supposed to yet. That's why Tidus is so confused.
We're Albed. Can't you tell? Wait, you're not an Albed hater, are you?
I don't even
Yeah,
know
they
what
all
a
were trying to
knockback
match the lip
is.
flaps to some
Where are
extent,
you from?
but there's lots of moments
Xanarkin.
where characters will just
I'm
be
a
bobbing
blitzball
their heads
player.
away long after this they've stopped talking.
Star player of the Xanarkin Abes?
But like,
Hit your head or
there's these
something?
narration bits that you see from time to time in this game where, like,
you
at the
guys-
start of the game, for example, TJ says, "Listen to my story. This may be
Oh,
the last
right.
chance we get."
Do you remember
And he
anything
says it in a
before
very
that?
different tone than he does in the rest of the game, and it's because James Arnold Taylor was under the impression that that narration was taking place at a point when Tidus was older.
So I told her everything.
So there's
there was
just
to
like
tell
stuff
about
like that
Xanarkin.
where they just
About
clearly didn't
life
have a full
there,
picture of what they were
Blitzball,
actually doing.
and Sin's attack, and about how Aaron and I were engulfed in this light. I just said things as they came to mind, but then I started to wonder.
Yeah, but he's not older. It's just him at the end of the game when they get to Xanarkin. Spoilers.
Say something funny?
You were near Sin.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, you'll be better in no time. They say your head gets funny when Sin is near. Maybe you just had some kind of dream?
I mean, a lot of voiceover from this era is definitely strangely handled.
You mean I'm sick?
Like, that's why I'm so
Seems
impressed
toxic,
by the
yeah.
voice acting in Metal Gear Solid.
You sure?
Yeah.
Because
there
they,
is no
like,
Xanarkin
for that
anymore.
era, it's,
Sin
like,
destroyed it 1,000 years ago.
immaculate.
So
But yeah,
North
there's
Blitzball there.
lots of stories you can hear, like
Huh?
Ryan Drummond, the original voice of Sonic in Sonic Adventure,
What do you mean,
the voice
1,000
director,
years ago?
because
But I saw
he has
Sin
a
attack
strange
Xanarkin.
quote for when he
You're saying
runs
that
out of
happened
water,
1,000
like if you stay
years
underwater
ago?
too long.
No way.
And the reason for that is that Ryan tried to make a choking sound, like he's running out of water, but the director said, "No, you have to say glub glub glub." So it's this strange, like, he clearly tried to do as much as he could to make it sound normal, but he is saying glub 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 because the voice director didn't speak English natively, and they thought that's what it should sound like when you're drowning. You should say glub glub glub. Yeah, Kingdom Hearts actually, in general, both the cutscenes and the voice acting hold up, like, weirdly better than 10 does. Like, it's weird how good the animation is in Kingdom Hearts 1 compared to the big, huge budget Final Fantasy game. Hey, Aaron, or however you say that, I'm sorry. Aaron. There's a line in Metal Gear Solid 2 that's only there because Kojima said they had to localize it. Yeah, well, that's with the cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts, they do have the problem of being on the PlayStation 2, which means that
You said
if they have a bunch of models on screen,
you play Blitzball?
they have to use the models that don't have actual faces. They have stickers that look like faces.
You know, you should go to Luca.
And
Someone might know
so
who
yeah,
you
those
are, or
definitely don't
you
hold
might
up as
find
well.
someone you
But
recognize.
even then, like,
Luca?
there's just so many strange motions in 10's cutscenes. Because stuff like this looks fine, but a lot of the time a character will, like, kind of half rotate on the plane and then, like, just, like, okay, actually a really common problem with the
Okay,
cutscenes
leave it
is
to me.
that
I'll get to
there's
Luca,
no
promise.
build up to their momentum. So a character will go from
Would you
standing
rather
still
stay
to a
here?
full sprint
Okay,
with
I'll
no
go tell the
transition.
others. Wait here. Oh, and one thing. Don't tell anyone you're from Xanarkin, okay? Yevon says it's
This
a
actually
lonely
has the
place.
same problem.
You
Look,
might upset
she's got her
someone.
sticker eyes right now, like how Kingdom Hearts does with cutscenes a lot.
uh-huh.
But yeah, no, the PlayStation 2 is very limited. The fact that this isn't what the game looked like exactly. They updated the models and textures and stuff. But the fact that it more or less looked this good is more of a testament to Square Enix than it
Xanarkin?
is to
Some kind
Sony's
of holy
hardware at the
place?
time. Because,
Yeah,
like,
right, I thought.
people have
Since when?
broken apart the cutscenes in Kingdom Hearts 2, and they've shown
Yevon?
how There are
Sin?
characters spawning
Luca?
and despawning
I thought Sin
constantly
just took me to a faraway
just so they can
place,
keep the
that I
cutscene
could go
going
back in a day or
without
two.
it just falling apart and the frame rate just
But 1,000
shitting the
years
bed.
into the future?
Like Square Enix
No
really
way.
wanted to push the limits of the hardware they were working with.
Whoa, whoa!
And they just so happened to choose to back the system that had the worst hardware. All that said, I do think it gives the cutscenes a certain charm.
Etonic! Etonic!